Hi, welcome back to the Blessed Bonds podcast. Today I have Malcolm on here, and we're just going to be talking about a few different topics. Malcolm, do you want to kind of introduce yourself and tell us about you for a second?
Yeah, so my name is Malcolm Keith. I'm a certified funnel builder. Right now, I'm working on this program for kids and teens called the Kid Funnel Builder program, where I'm going to be teaching kids and teens how to build sales funnels. I'm going to be teaching them all about business and sales and marketing. So that's something I'm launching soon. And I've, of course, built sales funnels for a bunch of different clients and businesses. So that's mainly what I do.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you so you're working on your business part right now, creating when's your launch date? Have you launched it yet?
I have launched it yet. I'm having a little bit of trouble with the marketing, so I need to focus on that a lot.
Yeah, sure. That'd be pretty cool. It'll definitely be cool to see it. So I just wanted to start off with talking about what are some situations that you've known God was there for you, because I feel like sometimes when we share those, it helps other people to realize, okay, God was there with them through those situations, so He'll be with me through those situations too.
Yeah, so there's definitely been a few times where I've known and just like been felt comforted. Um, and one of the things I can think of, uh, like one of the earliest ones I can remember was we went to Mexico for an event, for a business event, and my parents take me to all kinds of business events. But the thing is, I'm the only teenager there. So I was really hoping and praying that I would finally like meet some kids and teens like my age that were actually interested in like entrepreneurship and business and
Yeah.
stuff. And when we went to Mexico, which was not like specifically a kids tailored event. There were actually a bunch of teens there, and I got invited to kind of hang out with their group, and that's what we did like the entire week. It was super awesome. And on the first day, the first night, um, there was like a rooftop on the hotel, and we all like went up there and just started like talking about God and the Bible, and it was like it was such a cool experience that it couldn't have just been a coincidence. Like,
Mhm.
I don't believe that. I believe that God definitely set that path for me. So
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I had a podcast with Mary yesterday. We were talking about how cool it was that God puts people in your life, and I definitely have a lot of those situations where I was praying and praying. I was like, God, I need better friends because the people you hang out with, you do act like. And I was like, okay, I want some better friends. And he's definitely blessed me with a whole bunch of Christian friends and people who better me. And when I'm not on the right path, they're like, hey, Rose, there's something going on here. Help me to become a better person. And I think that's really cool. And yeah, God puts these situations together, and I think it's really neat. And I really liked how in we have our teen mastermind, how those people have helped me better myself in a whole bunch of different aspects. I think that's really cool.
hmm yeah, God definitely uses like specifically other people. I think that's like like his favorite way to do it, but is putting other people that you need um, whenever you need it. Like another time was like I went to this youth group, and we there was like the kind of like the group prayer where we all prayed for each other. And so my prayer request was I was gonna launch this challenge called the Take Your Kids Out of the System Challenge, which is gonna be um, basically getting parents to homeschool their kids because uh, taking them out of the school system, which is totally broken. Um, so that was going to be the challenge, and I had no idea how to run it. So my prayer request was getting like guidance and help with that. And
Yeah.
so, and I think like the very next day, um, my mom found this guy Pedro Adeo, who is the challenge guy, and he does this challenge secrets masterclass, which and which basically taught you how to do challenges. And so like And as soon as we got on the phone with the guy who was saying, like, we were trying to figure out if this was kind of the right thing for us,
Yeah.
and we got on the phone with kind of like the salesperson, basically, of the challenge, and it was in that moment I was like, man, my prayer got answered. That was super. Like, there's no other way. There's no
Yeah.
other possibility. So yeah, you just know.
hmm Yeah, I have one I want to share. So I just thought of this. So I write a lot of things. Like I'm a big like writer. Like I just like
Hmm.
writing random things about how my day went and stuff like that. And I had written, and I write like down prayers because I like looking back and be like, oh, that got answered. And I remember I wrote, it was probably like a Tuesday night. I wrote down and I was like, God, I want to speak at different places. So can you please like help me to find different places to speak if this is your will? Like I'm ready. So send me. And the next day I got a phone call and this guy was like, hey, do you want to come speak at this thing called the Fields of Faith? And it's in front of like 200 student athletes. And I was like Christian student athletes. And I was like, yeah. And it was really cool because I was like, I had just prayed about that. And God was like, okay, so when you ask God and you're like, I'm ready, and if it's His will, He will help you and allow you to do that. I think that's sometimes scary because it's also like, then means my life's going to change and things can happen, that kind of stuff. But it's always for His will and it's always better. So I feel like when we trust Him, because Jeremiah 29:11 tells us that like, He knows the plans He has for us and they're never to harm us, but they're always to like He has a hope and a future. So He has a future for us and it's not to harm us, but it's to like make us better and to grow us. And so I think that that's just really cool that when we pray something, God will help you. And it might not always be in the way you think it's going to happen, but it will always happen for His good.
Hmm.
I think
Not
that's
exactly. I always try to remember that like whatever happens, if it's good or bad, like if it's bad, it's just in the moment, and it's not actually bad. It's really for my own good in
yeah.
the end. So I always try to remember that. And speaking of like the challenge example I gave, we
Yeah.
ended up doing his challenge where he's teaching about challenges in his challenge, and we kind of found out that that's not really we didn't really want to do that because it didn't fit who we wanted to work with. We didn't really want to work with people who haven't homeschooled yet. We really wanted to work with people who are already homeschooling. So we decided actually not to do the challenge. So even when the answer is no, it's you have to accept it because it's better for you if you accept it.
Right. Because then you were able to grow and learn in a different way.
Hmm.
So I think that's kind
Now,
of cool.
rejection is like rejection you can grow from even more. Failures even more than your successes.
Yeah. I'm doing another podcast in a couple weeks about that, about like learning from your failures and how when you fail, you grow more than if you would have succeeded, and it helps you
Mhm.
to eventually succeed.
Yep.
So yeah, that's something that we're definitely gonna talk about. I think that's important because you're gonna go through things that aren't gonna make sense, but they will help grow you. And God answers your prayers, maybe not. I talk about it a lot, like maybe not in the way you think He's gonna answer them, but they will be answered. And when it's God's will, it will happen. I think that's sometimes something that really scares me because I want to be a speaker, but I'm like, I know that that can take me out of a lot of things that I'm doing right now. So like maybe I won't be able to swim as much or hang out with friends as much, but I'll be doing something that I really like have a passion to do. And so sometimes we have to give a little bit for God to do a lot. I think that's kind of cool.
Hmm. And sometimes, like when you get the answer no, it's not really a no. It's a not yet.
Right. And I think that sometimes, yeah, God will be like, not, you're not ready yet. There was a
Hmm.
Bible verse, I don't remember what it was I was reading the other day, and God was like, it was Jesus talking to his disciples, I think, and he was like, I have so much more to tell you, but you're not ready yet. So sometimes God will not let you do something because you're not ready yet, and it would hurt you a lot more. So you have to like trust him and give that to him, be like, okay, whenever it's my time, it will happen, and I just have to like trust you with that. I think
Hmm.
that's like really fun to think about in a way. It's sometimes scary, but it's fun at the same time.
Yeah. And I can't remember like exactly where I heard this, but like God won't push you to do something that you're not actually ready for. Like,
Mhm.
even if you don't believe that you're ready for it, you are, and He's going to provide the tools and the knowledge and the path for you. Even if you don't believe in yourself, if you believe in God, then He's going to direct you.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool thing to think about. 'Cause somebody told me the other day, like, "Well, I believe in you, and I believe in you, and you just need to believe in yourself." And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm gonna fail if I believe in me. And if all I believe in is me, I got this. I don't have it. God has it." And so a lot of times, like before I speak or before I do a podcast or anything like that, I think about it and I'm like, I'm not the one speaking. It's not me who's doing anything in this. It's God through me. And so I'm like, okay, I just got to go out there and speak what I believe. And nobody else has to believe what I believe. Like we all have our own opinions. I think that that's kind of cool to think about. I think we'll talk about this in a little bit. Like we all have our own opinions and we all have our own beliefs. And just like being okay with that. And so I'm like, okay, God, just speak through me and I'm going to trust you with whatever I say, whatever you say through me. I think that's just kind of fun.
That is super cool.
But yeah, so I had another thing was my youth pastor was talking to us the other day and he was like, how do you know God's real? And if someone asked me that, you might be like stumped for a second, like, what do you mean, how do I know God's real? Because I've always like gone to church and like been a believer. I've grown up in the church. And so, we never really thought of life like without God. It's like God was always there. I'd always had like religion, all that stuff. I think that something I think about a lot is that it's not always religion, it's a relationship. And so I don't just read my Bible to tell people I read my Bible today and I went to church and all that stuff, but it's a relationship with God. And like when someone asks me, like, how do you know God's real? I'm like, I went through things that I wouldn't have made it through if He wasn't there for me. And that's like all I can tell Him is I'm like, I don't have a whole lot of proof of like, this is how I know God's real, except the fact that I made it through things that I wouldn't have made it through. And there were situations that I went through that I didn't like. God had a plan. And if it was just me, I wouldn't have made it. And so it was a little situation, but it really like took me back is we were at in South Carolina a couple months ago and it was like the last day of our trip. We're there with one of our like close family friends. Like their family, they have 6 kids, and we were all like hanging out at the beach, and this was so dumb. It sounds so dumb, but there was like a sandbar like kind of thing, and you like jumped off, and it was really deep. Okay, and so I was like, yeah, this is so fun. I didn't think about the fact that like the tide changes and comes in and out, and so the depth is going to be different. I didn't think about that. Like I don't know.
Mm.
So we were like, let's make a video, and so we were gonna make a video of all of us jumping in, and so I was probably like 6th in line because there was like 8 of us. And so it's so dumb telling the story, but the boys went and they all dove. And I was like, I got this. I'm a swimmer. I can dive. No. And I dove and I like hit the bottom. And I was like, ow. And so I came up and like my head's bleeding. And it was
Oh,
just like I had scraped the front of my face. So it wasn't like my brain, but like just the like skin. And I was like, that's so crazy. I just remember like coming up and I like looked at my best friend. She was like, Rose, your head's bleeding. And I was like, okay, well, we should probably get out of the water and like figure out what's wrong. And so I was just like dizzy. I was fine. It took a couple weeks to like heal, but it was fine. And I went into the house. I was sitting there like in the dark because everybody else went outside. They were like, Rose is gonna flip out on us if we go in there because she's just like in a bad mood. And so I was just sitting there alone. And the dad of like the other family came in and he was like, Rose, can I talk to you for a second? And I was like, yeah, what's up? And he's a doctor. And he was like, I just want to like get you to notice the seriousness of this, that you were an inch from either being paralyzed for the rest of your life or dying. And I was like, oh. And he's like, because if you would have hit that, you didn't know what was under there. So it could have been rocks, but thankfully it was sand. He's like, but still that pressure, like you could have broke your neck. And he's like, so I want you to notice the fact that you could be dead right now, but God didn't decide to let you, like God had a plan. He was like, okay, Rose, I'm not ready for you to go yet. And that was like, I hadn't like cried. I was just like, I'm tough. I got this. I'm not going to cry. And that was just like, I just like bawled. I was like, I'm still alive. And God decided that it wasn't my time yet. And so I think that's something that I wanted to like share because that's kind of cool. Because I was like, God, you didn't choose to let me go. You were like, no, I have a bigger plan for you. So whenever like gets hard, I'm like, okay, God could have taken me at any point. Like, He can take us at any point. Like, okay, you're ready to come home. But we're still alive, so we still have a purpose here. And I think that's kind of cool to think of. Like when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, okay, somebody didn't wake up this morning. I did. And God's like, okay, here's a second chance. Here's another time to go again and change the world that you have these moments, because life will vanish. Life goes fast. Like, I noticed that recently. Life goes really fast. And I talk about a lot. It's like God put the vision in your heart today. And so go chase that vision and pray about it and like share God's word, because you might not have tomorrow. And so, yeah, that's just like something to like pull out. But yeah.
Wow. That's an amazing story. Wow. Super cool.
What is like, do you have a story that like goes like, how do you know God's real? Like, do you have a story for that?
Not like one specific one, but there's multiple times. And I have this trouble with like kind of like feeling that God's there. Like that's sometimes hard for me.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's like correct that you like need to feel that God's there. I know that God's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's more important, because then because if I know God's there, um yeah, I'm trying to think of the words.
No, I get what you mean though. Yeah.
But yeah, there's multiple reasons why I know in my heart that He is there. There's like, if you think about creation, like science will say that something can't come from nothing, and that makes sense. But then again, they also say that everything came from nothing. They say the Big Bang, and just pow, everything existed. That makes no sense. That's a contradiction. So if everything exists, which it clearly does, then something had to have made it, something infinite, and God's infinite. So obviously that must be the right answer. But the Christian God isn't just infinite, He actually cares about His creation. And so just being an infinite God wouldn't quite qualify. The Christian God is infinite and like personal and cares. And I believe that's the only God that could have created the world, because if an infinite God who didn't care created the world, He would have zero reason. Like there's zero reason for a God that doesn't care to create everything. There's no reason to. But the Christian God, He does care, so of course, so He would create it.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean.
But to me, like, God's the only answer to how everything is made. He's the only answer to like having purpose too. Because if there is no God, then like what's the point? That's why I really like Ecclesiastes. It's kind of like, it's weird because it's kind of like a sad, like existential kind of book in the Bible.
Yeah.
But I really like it because I think it's actually quite a happy message if you think
Yeah.
about it, because I think it's really talking about how if there is no God, then yeah, there is zero purpose, and there is gonna be like everything that's gonna happen on this earth it's gonna go away. It's all limited and finite. However, with God, there is purpose, and there is eternal life, and everything that's going to be in the new kingdom, that's all going to be infinite. And so, and it's weird for me to see that people choose not to believe in God, because then their life really has no meaning. Like, and it's just sad. Why would, not only does it make sense, it's, why would you want to choose to be sad? You should choose to be happy. So God's like the only answer that makes sense to me for the creation of the world, and for having a purpose. And like he's the only answer to me for us being redeemed for our sin. As soon as so back in the Garden of Eden, once Adam and Eve took a bite out of the fruit that they were banished to eat from eating, they were just once they disobeyed God, then like that was it. The entirety of humanity was just basically cursed to they're unredeemable, and that's been proven time and time again. Everyone has sin. Everybody sins. So the only way for a man to not have sin would be if that man was also God. Um, but if that but if God like redeemed us but if like God was perfect, then that doesn't really count, because if it's just God, then it's just God. That doesn't count for the rest of humanity. But Jesus was 100% God and 100% man, so he was able to be perfect and still be made of our same flesh and blood. So to me, that has to be the answer. It has to be. So yeah, I believe God is the only answer for those three. Yeah.
Did you go through Defeating Darwinism in
I did, yes. Defeating
That was
Darwinism.
really good.
I loved it.
It was really good. It really like made me think about stuff, because I feel like we're always gonna question things. Like, we're humans, we question like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Like, and all that stuff. You just have to choose what you believe. And I feel like, I know that God's real, and I choose to believe that. And we can't make everybody believe that. So I feel like that's kind of hard, because I'm like, I don't want to. I think sometimes we think, am I even believing in the right thing, and all that stuff. I think you just have to have faith in knowing like what you believe. And sometimes that's scary, because it's like, well, what if I'm believing the wrong thing and I'm gonna go to hell forever? Like, that's a scary thought. But I don't know, you just have to like choose what you believe and know that like what you believe is right in a way. And I feel like the Bible talks a lot about like all kinds of, it's so cool. Like, the Bible's so cool. And I feel like it's fun to read it and just see everybody else's different like lives, and how we all come back to, we all sin and God still forgives us. And I was listening to this might be like a tangent, but I was listening to a song today, and it was talking about how like we're alive and our life is so precious that Jesus died for it, because he was like, I want you to be forgiven. And we were like, we don't deserve that. We all deserve to go to hell. But God is like, I'm still going to give you a second chance. And I think that's so cool. And like, we as humans, when one person does something wrong to us, we're like, oh, I don't like them anymore. And then God's like, I forgive you. And every day he forgives us. I think that's really cool. And it shows that he's truly love. Like, when it says like God is love, like he's absolutely, there's so many different definitions of like love, but God is the ultimate, like God is love. And no matter what we do, no matter like how bad we mess up, God still loves us. And I think that's like, if I could get one person, like, or like people that like understand one thing, is that like God forgives you no matter like how bad you, like no matter how bad anything you've done is, like he forgives you. And he is so good about like all of that. And it's kind of crazy as humans to comprehend things, because we don't understand everything. I think that's a really good thing, because we wouldn't need a God if we understood everything. And so that's kind of a crazy thing to think about, because it's like, oh, well, we're super smart down here, but we don't understand everything. I think it's kind of hard to think about the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and it's like the three in one. Like, it doesn't really make sense to like us as humans, but it's like God like created all of these things, and it's okay to not understand things sometimes. Like, I'm totally okay with not understanding all of this stuff right now, but choosing to believe. And I think that's a difference between like knowing and believing. Like, I know all of this stuff, I believe. Like, I don't know everything, but I choose to believe. I think that's just something that's kind of cool to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Like sometimes I'm like hard on myself because I haven't read the whole Bible, and like I keep having to like I get on a habit of reading, and then I like get off of it, and then I have to like I decided to just restart at Proverbs or Genesis, and
Yeah.
like that kind of sucks sometimes. But even though I haven't read the entire Bible, I I think that's fine right now because I still have a lot of time to learn, and so yeah, I already have a lot of time. I still have a lot of time to learn.
Yeah, and I feel like I haven't read the whole Bible either. And I think that that's okay sometimes because I don't know how to say this, but like we don't always like have to read everything, like know everything, because we're obviously not going to remember everything in the Bible. Like it's a lot to like it's got a lot going on. But I like do you have like a favorite Bible verse or do you have one of those like a favorite Bible verse?
Um, Favorite Bible verse? I
Yeah.
don't know.
I
I have,
don't. Like that's a hard question
yeah,
because
I
I have
haven't
like
looked.
so many. And I think that rereading the Bible and like rereading different things, you get something each time. And so some people might be like, "Oh, I read the whole Bible." And it's like, "Oh, really? That's really cool." And like, "Yeah, I read the whole Bible like 10 years ago." So they don't even like remember all the things that they read about it. So I think there's a difference between reading the whole Bible and truly like reading the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And so because like also with going to church, like I could just go to church on Sunday and be like, yeah, I'm a Christian, I go to church and I'm like all this stuff. But then like, do you truly know God or do you just know churchy words and know how to make people think you know God? And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a big thing for me is like when I talk to people, is like we can say I'm a Christian and all that stuff, but we have to know at the end, are we going to stand in judgment? Do we actually know God? Or did we just live our lives for all of these things on like parties and drinking and all that stuff? Or are we living our life for Christ? And so are we the same person on Sunday morning that we are on like a Friday night? So I talk
Mm-hmm.
about that a lot because that's a hard thing to think about and knowing that like, oh, well, maybe I have to change my life to become like Christ because we're not called to be like the world, we're called to be like Christ. And that's hard to think about sometimes because like, well, God is perfect, I'm never going to be perfect. No, but you can try every day to be more like Christ, and we're never going to be Christ and we're never going to be perfect, but we can be more like him. And some days are going to be hard and some days are going to be like, oh well, I did awful today and all this stuff. But you're like, no, it's a learning process and we all have trials and those are hard sometimes because it's like, God, I didn't want to go through this, and he's like, no, but you needed to go through this. And I feel like those are a lot of moments that you grow in. And so trusting God and like, okay, I don't understand what's happening, but you do. And there's a Bible verse that talks about like you don't understand what I'm doing right now, but you will. And so I'm excited to make it to heaven and realize, okay, and like look back at my life and see all these things that didn't make sense and see how they did make sense. I'm like, wow, that was all like working. And I see that now because I talk about my injury a lot. I went through an injury and I like in April, and through that I like started my podcast and I started writing a book and I'm started like speaking. And so yeah, it didn't make sense in that moment, but God was like, I'm here and I'm real, and it showed me like himself through those moments because sometimes when you're alone is when you truly find God. Because when I was like at like a night, I'm just like sitting there like, God, I don't know what's like happening. And he's like, well, I'm here and I'm there for you. And so sometimes you have to close yourself off and give yourself time to be alone to find God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard sometimes because I don't like being alone sometimes. I like get my energy from being alone, like get my like joy from being alone, but I'm also like a really big people person. And so hard to separate yourself from people and just find God. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Especially like now we have these things now, and they're like a type of social interaction, except for it's much worse because you're not actually socially interacting.
Yeah.
And so these take up way too much time.
Yeah.
And so you have to break away from it.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like definitely separating your phone from your Bible time. So like not having your phone anywhere near you when you're like reading the Bible or doing that kind of stuff. And I think that's hard because yeah, our phones are crazy. But the thing is that I was talking to someone about this the other day and they were like about how like they didn't feel loved and all this stuff. And I was like, well, are you spending more time like on here or more time in here? And I
Yeah.
was like, because that's gonna decipher a lot of things because there's like Instagram and social media and like all these things that show like people being perfect. Yeah, you see that side of the camera, but you don't see the other side. And so, but like in the Bible, it shows all of the crazy things that happened. I feel like Job is one that I like look at a lot because Job went through a lot of hard stuff. Like the enemy like took everything away from him, and he still worshipped God. And then like on your phone, you're like, well, these people are like living life perfectly. And the Bible talks about how Job's life was not perfect, and he still found God. And so, I feel like sometimes we look at social media too much and we like spend too much time on there and thinking like, well, all of these people's lives are perfect and all this stuff, but the Bible talks about and shows like all the lives that weren't perfect, but God was still able to change them. And I think that's kind of special.
Yeah. There's so many amazing stories in the Bible that are, yeah.
Do you have like a favorite story or a story like you relate to most or anything like that?
In the Bible,
Yeah.
uh, not yet. Like I know of Job. I haven't read that whole story yet. No, not yet. I need to read more. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
it's okay. Yeah, Job's good. I like how in the beginning he was like a really like wealthy, or I think he had a lot of possessions and stuff. And I like the part that God was like, okay, talking to the enemy, and the enemy was like, well, Sam was like, Job won't love you anymore, and Job won't worship you if you take everything away. And the enemy was like, or God was like, you can do whatever you want to him as long as you don't hurt him. And so, or like lay a finger on him or something. And so the enemy was able to take away like all of Job's possessions, like he killed all of his family and all this stuff, and Job still worshiped God. And so every day, like I kind of think about that. I'm like, okay, Job still worshiped God, and he took everything from him. God, like the enemy might have taken one little thing from you, and you're like, God, I'm so mad. So I'm like, okay, Job was able to praise God even though everything else was gone. You can praise God even though one little thing is gone. And so I think that's a good reminder. Yeah, Job is really good. It has a lot of good reminders in it.
Yeah. No, I think. Yeah, I do remember like parts of the story, and I've heard it a bunch. And I think another thing about knowing God and knowing that He's there is that it like He comforts you when you lose things, when you lose people. I thought my grandpa passed away about I think almost a year ago. It's kind of crazy, but he passed away, and I can't imagine how I would be if I didn't believe in God. Because if I didn't, then like my grandpa's gone, like forever. Like that would be it. But I know God's there, and I believe in God. So I know that my grandpa was a believer. So I know I will see him again. And that was a common saying for us, and like I really stick to it now. Is we don't say bye, we say see you later. And so that's what my grandpa said to my dad just before he left, and grandpa passed away, was I'll see you later. So I know I'm going to see my grandpa later. So,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. When I think when you lose people, it's hard. And a lot of people, they come to their funeral and it's like, it's gonna be okay. They're in a better place now, all this stuff. And sometimes it's hard because you're like, well, I'm like still angry about it. Or we can choose to either be angry at God or like trust God and lean on Him. And I had someone on here. His name was Troy. He did a podcast, and we were talking about like he lost his dad, and he like turned his back on God, and like he became like an atheist and all this stuff. And then something happened and he was like injured. I don't totally like know the whole thing, but he went to this church, and they prayed over him, and he wasn't supposed to walk for like 6 months, and he was able to walk, and it was like not very long after his injury. And so like they prayed over him, and he was like, it showed him that God was real. And I think that's really special because he like then learned to lean on God from like those losses, because when you lose things, like you're gonna be sad. I mean, that's a human emotion. We're gonna be sad and we're gonna be hurt, but we can choose to grow from that, or we can choose to like fall apart and not grow from that. So I think that that's just how life goes, is that you're gonna lose things and things aren't gonna go your way, but they're going God's way. And so even when like it doesn't make sense, it makes sense to God, and He understands it even when we don't. I think that's kind of a cool way to think about it. Is like, okay, I don't understand it, but I know God does, so it'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I always try to keep that in mind. It's just like I don't know the answer yet,
Mm-hmm.
and I might not even know in my entire lifetime. But when my lifetime on this finite Earth is over, then I'll know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking about that in church the other day. I was like, I'm so excited to make it to heaven, and like we talk to God now, but we're gonna see God face to face. And I'm like, that's so cool. It's just like hard for us to comprehend like how that's all gonna work, because it's like, well, there's got to be so many people out there. Like, is He gonna have time for me? Like, God always has time for you, and it's just kind of crazy to think about that. And something I think about a lot is that God like created the earth in 7 days, and like think about like the details and all that stuff. But God created you in 9 months. Like, you are so important. Like, each of us are so like we're so unique, and we can either choose to be like, well, I don't like this about my life, and I like this about me, and all this stuff. Or we can be like, no, God created me, and He spent time creating me, making me who I am. And so I tell a lot of people, like, don't ever change who you are because someone else doesn't like you. So maybe your personality is like more happy and energetic and all this stuff, and someone doesn't like that. Well, God made you the way you are. And so no matter like if someone else doesn't like you, or if anybody like that, because that's the enemy talking to you through them, like, don't let that be a part of you. And so don't let what other people say, especially about your beliefs, like, well, I think that's wrong, and I don't like this, and I don't like this. Like, just believe what you choose to believe. And I just choose to believe that God is real, and that He died for us on like Jesus died for us on the cross for our sins, and like that's what I choose to believe. But I talk about it a lot. It's like, I'm not going to force someone else to believe that, like, because we all have our own choices. Like, that's God gave us that. God gave Adam and Eve that in the garden. Like, God's not going to make you do anything, and that's really cool, because we're like, oh well, God will never make me do anything, but I can trust Him and let Him lead me. And so, sorry, that was like a little rant thing, but
Yeah, no, all he does is open doors, and it's up to you to decide if you want to follow or if you want to
right.
rebel. And more often than not, if you follow, it's going to work out well for you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
Sometimes when we don't listen, it's like, oh, I probably should have listened, but
mhm.
that's all right. I feel like that's, yeah. But yeah, that's what I had for that. I know that. Have you ever seen The Case for Christ?
I've heard of it. I've not. It's like a documentary or short film or
I think
something.
so. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I talked about it with Troy in our podcast episode. And so he said it was good. I haven't watched it yet, but it was talking about, I think, how they researched and like figured out how God was real. And so I want to watch it soon. I think it would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like, just,
Um, I forget what the thing is called, but there was this like video series that we watched in um actually last year in Challenge 3 of CC. Um, I can't remember, but it's a bunch of videos kind of talking about the different aspects of God in the Bible, and kind of doing the same thing of like giving evidence or not like but it's also like a mix of poems too. I don't know, it's weird, but it was really cool.
yeah.
And just I forget what it's called. I'll have to look it up later.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
No,
think that,
the documentaries are super cool.
yeah, for sure. Sometimes they're like, I don't understand what's happening, but they are cool. But yeah, so I wanted to pull out Bible verse. Hold on. What Bible verses did you send me?
Um,
I have them in my notes.
I sent Proverbs, a Proverbs one, and just Ecclesiastes.
In general. Okay, yeah. I'm going to go to Proverbs 3. 6. I think my favorite Bible verse, like not my Bible verse, but like my favorite story in the Bible is the prodigal. And like
Oh,
how no matter what we do, like God will always be standing there waiting for us to come back with arms like wide open, waiting for us.
mm-hmm.
that's kind of cool. I have so many sticky notes in my Bible. It's distracting me. 36. Okay. Okay, yeah, so this one is talking about, it says, in all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. And so like how we were talking about, like he will lead us, and I think that that's so cool that he like leads us, and we have to, I think God doesn't, okay, this is gonna sound really weird, and I don't know if it'll totally make sense, but I feel like God didn't leave us a whole lot of like evidence that he's real and like all this stuff. Like he left us enough that we have to believe, but not like a whole lot that everybody knows. Do you know what I mean? Like we choose to believe, and I think that's kind of cool. That was totally off what I was talking about, but
Yeah, especially nowadays, there's like, because in the biblical times, people saw Jesus, and people still didn't believe when they saw Jesus, when they saw him like walk on water and turn water into wine and all that other stuff, and then live after he clearly died. So, and people still didn't believe. So, but we don't have that kind of, we don't get to see that kind of stuff now. And I forget the verse, but Jesus said it. He said, blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed.
mm-hmm.
Can't remember which one exactly it was, but I remember he said that before. And so that, I don't know, that is super cool.
We like choose to believe, and it's hard to believe when we don't see things. Like it's hard to be like, well, God's there for me even when we like don't see him. But we know sometimes that like God's there, and there's times that we're gonna go through that we're gonna be totally alone, except we have God, because people fail. People are gonna fall apart, and people's love is gonna fail and not be enough sometimes, but God always will be. And I think that's like whether you're with your family or you're in a relationship or your friends or anything like that, like they won't always be there for you, and God always will. So I think that's something that I think about a lot, because I'm like, I have people that are so like super important to me, like people I absolutely love, and then like I have God, and so keeping God. I talked about this yesterday with Mary. That keeping God like top priority and on your pedestal, like of most important things, keep God on top, because he will always be there even when other people, like don't put a relationship or somebody else in front of that, because God, like God's always going to be there. Those people might not be.
Yeah, if you make something else your top priority, then that becomes your idol, that becomes your God, but it's a false God. So you need to keep the actual God front and center. And yeah, the point I was trying to convey, like at the beginning of like whenever you're like in those dark like kind of sad times when you're down, and like people have wronged you, or you wrong someone else, and you're just kind of down, even though like even if you don't feel that God is there, if you that's why it's really important to just to read your Bible and to like know that he's there, because if you know, then that itself is going to comfort you.
Yeah.
And you know that this is just temporary, and you know that God has great stuff planned for you, that he's only doing good for you. Just maybe this is a trial for you to learn from.
Right. And isn't there a Bible verse about that? Like, be still and know.
Yeah.
Isn't there one? Hold on. Be still. I love Bible app. So,
It is nice. I do prefer to read. I think people should read in the physical Bible, though, because then there's so many other distractions.
right. You get a text message, you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
I know. That's how I am. So, like, I have my actual Bible, and then when I need to, like, look something up, so, like, be still and know, I just, like, look it up in the Bible app. But, yeah. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations and be exalted among the earth. So yeah, be still and know that I'm God. So he just, I think that reminds me, like, not to like stress out about things, but just like to know that God is more powerful than anything else, and to think about that, like, he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. And so, like, God is within us, and he is greater than the enemy, because the enemy is like roaming the earth, and God is like over the whole earth. And so it's kind of like cool to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, do you have anything else you want to like pull out?
Not sure.
Yeah, you're okay. Yeah, I just didn't know. We're at 45 minutes, so if you don't have anything else, we can.
I don't know. This is like the first time I've done a podcast.
Yeah. No, you're good. I ramble a lot, so doesn't always make noise.
I don't know. I don't really have anything yet.
Okay. Yeah. That's all right. And hey, if you ever want to do another podcast.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Then I can kind of have a bit more knowledge and more stuff to say.
For sure.
So, yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, podcasts are fun. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching and listening, and I hope you enjoyed the episode.